Hello everybody and welcome back. As always, I am Mateo311 and this is your channel for everything VR related. So the time has finally come where I can discuss my super secret trip where I flew out to Seattle, met the Camouflaj team in person, did a 1-hour Q&A, and also got to play 40 minutes of Batman Arkham Shadow. Now I also have 16 minutes of brand new never seen footage, but before we get into that and start breaking down this whole game, I'm just curious if you guys want me to upload the entire 1-hour Q&A. So drop down to the comments right now and let me know. Now there are of course links and timestamps if you want to skip ahead to a specific topic, but let's not waste any more time and start talking about just how good this game really is. So it is officially time to get hyped because not only is Batman a great VR game, it's also just an amazing Arkham game. That's right, this title fits right into that original series. It actually takes place right after Arkham Origins, and I don't know how they did it, but it is a fantastic translation of that amazing series. It's got the same pacing, somehow the combat feels the same. I couldn't believe how they did it. Honestly guys, I was absolutely blown away. 99.9% of my experience was extremely positive. I'll go over that 0.1 at the end of this video, but like I said, I'm going to break down everything, and I'm sure the most important thing you're looking to know about is the combat. Now, if you're looking for physics-based combat like blade and sorcery, that's not what you're gonna get here. And in truth, avoiding that was their best decision. Combat in the Arkham series has a very distinct rhythm, and if you've played those games, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Batman doesn't walk across the room, he punches across the room, and he engages multiple enemies at a time in a very methodical fashion. Now, the developers frequently mentioned Beat Saber-like mechanics, and I honestly think that's the wrong way to describe it. Yes, sometimes you do need to strike in a particular direction to properly hit the enemy, but it doesn't feel anything like Beat Saber. It just feels awesome. And honestly, I've done multiple years of martial arts, and I was just doing normal combos that I would do in practice sparring, and they just lined up to how Batman would fight. Like a lot of times I would see the enemy move in a direction and punch in a certain manner because that's how you'd hit someone in real life, and it lined up with what the game wanted me to do. So I didn't even have to pay attention to the indicators. It was absolutely fantastic, felt amazing. And you couldn't just flail your hands. It wouldn't register that. It would say, you know, you're swinging too fast. Because Batman doesn't swing too fast. He's methodical. He picks his enemies apart. So here, this was fantastically done. I couldn't believe how good the combat was. It's also pretty damn physical, as I did break a nice sweat, and you honestly start feeling like Batman, as the game has you doing an array of badass moves, like jump kicks, headbutts, and a good old-fashioned ground and pound when you knock down an enemy. Now, the core element of combat that's been brought over from the Arkham series is that very specific rhythm. As you engage one enemy, another one will try and take the opportunity and strike you from behind. So this is where you engage the blocking mechanic and do your best to juggle opponents. Now, Meta actually brought in a whole bunch of Batman content creators, something I didn't even know existed, but these are people who specialize in everything Batman or just the Arkham series. And they flew in, a lot of them never even played VR before, and I got the same response from every single one I talked to. They couldn't believe how well they translated the combat, how similar it felt, how the fact that they were familiar with those games also translated, so they were able to do moves that the game didn't even tell you about, like you could take your cape and whip people to stun them. So everything is like a one-to-one recreation from the flat to VR version. I couldn't believe it. It's truly impressive, and they felt the same way, which was great to hear. And honestly, I think this is going to be a game that bridges the gap. There's going to be a lot of flat screen Arkham people who want to try this game, and when they try it, they won't be disappointed. So very happy. Combat is solid. There's absolutely nothing to worry about there. Now, in keeping with that attempt to truly make this a new game in the Arkham series, they not only brought back many of the original voice actors, including Roger Craig Smith, who does the voice of Batman. Now, Arkham Shadow is most closely designed after Arkham Asylum, and Camouflaj went to extreme lengths to match the same look, feel, and pacing. So the game isn't just all combat. You'll be switching between exploration, where there are plenty of hidden collectibles to find, environmental puzzles where Batman will usually have to figure his way through some form of barrier, there'll be cutscenes that deliver another epic Batman tale, a series of challenging boss fights, and of course those stealth segments where you go into Predator mode and take down your enemies from the shadows. Now, the two aspects that I didn't personally get to experience are those cutscenes and a boss fight. The demo ended right as you were going into a cutscene. You see Gordon, he starts to talk to you, and then it just fades out. So I was a little disappointed there. I wanted to, get a glimpse of the storyline and just, get the full detail of the characters, up close and personal. But that is the next topic we're going to move into, which is another concern that people usually have. And how do the overall graphics look? Well, again, there's no reason to be concerned here because this is a very good looking game. This is a MetaQuest 3 exclusive, and one of the main reasons behind that was they wanted to make sure they could keep the fidelity as high as possible. And they definitely managed to pull it off. Now, I'm not 100% sure this is the same quality as Red Matter 2, but it's definitely close. It's honestly just a hard comparison. The world of Batman is dark and gritty, and Red Matter 2 leans a lot more into sci-fi, with a lot of shiny objects and beautiful space environments. So again, it's kind of hard to compare the two, but I will say Batman's graphics kept me fully immersed. There were no low-resolution textures, I didn't witness any foveated rendering, and the game runs at 72 frames per second without reprojection. Even in those moments when I got really close up to and inspected enemies, never once did they look goofy or the uncanny valley was triggered. It was pretty damn solid across the board. Now let's be 100% honest here, this still isn't PC VR. It doesn't compare to Half-Life Alyx, but it's honestly one of the best looking Quest games I've ever played. I wouldn't say you have to play this game for the graphics, oh my god, they're gonna blow your mind. No, we have flat screen, we have PC VR, but they never broke the immersion. It looks really damn good, and overall, I have zero complaints on the graphics. Actually, I'm quite impressed. Now let me break down my overall experience with the game so you have an understanding of how I got to my conclusions. My demo was roughly 40 minutes, and I was basically playing the very start of the game. Unlike at Gamescom, there was absolutely no rush here. I wasn't on a set time limit, there was no one scheduled to jump into the headset immediately after me, so I was free to explore, backtrack, and just take my time. I was also actively communicating with some of the developers, and a fellow YouTuber who was also gaming in the same room. So not only was I immediately comparing notes with another fellow YouTuber, I was also getting instant feedback from the developers. So when something didn't feel right, or I thought something didn't feel right, or I had a suggestion for them, that conversation just kept going the entire 40 minutes. It felt really good. It was a great experience. And I'm not the type of person to clam up, get shy, or even be afraid to share a negative opinion. Such as one of the first gameplay elements that slightly threw me off, which was the blocking mechanic. The game tells you to basically just throw your arm back to initiate the block, which honestly didn't feel right at all, but once I started actively blocking like Batman would, or similar to how someone would perform a block in martial arts, then it all just came together and felt right. So I walked away from my 40-minute experience pretty damn exhausted and absolutely pumped, but I still had some concerns, and this is where going into my 1-hour Q&A just basically solidified my feelings. I asked a lot of questions, and my main question is another one I'm sure you guys are curious about, which is what is the overall scope and scale of this game? We know you're going to be doing all the same things you do in a Batman Arkham title, specifically Batman Arkham Asylum. That's the closest one. Well, it's also very close to that game in scope. They said it's definitely longer than Iron Man, but maybe the exact same amount of time as Arkham Asylum. That was their goal. The only issue is pacing in a virtual game is a little bit harder to judge compared to a flat game. You know, people get tired, people physically start to slow down, and the disparity between all the YouTubers who played it, their finish time or completion time, obviously exploration and stuff like that is a factor, but just how fast you could beat up the enemies is another huge factor. So there was a pretty big variance in how long we were able to blast through it. So that could mean this is going to be 8 hours or 12 hours. Either way, that's a pretty solid game. And everything in those older Arkham titles, like the explosive gel, grappling hook, grappling gun, gliding through areas, the Predator stealth moments, it's all in there. Now, the one thing I wanted, and now we're moving into, some of the things that slightly threw me off about this, I wanted some type of new bat tool. I've played all the Arkham games extensively, and I'm familiar with everything we're going to get, and I'm excited for it. I want to use, my batarang, my grappling hook, all that stuff. But give me something new. Just throw in some type of specific bat gear new to this game, and unfortunately, there's nothing new. There's also no Batmobile. Womp womp. I know, you wanted to get behind the wheel for a moment. We all did. It's not going to happen in this game. Now, the other aspect that threw me off and is a pretty big deal is the fact that the demo we played did have some bugs in it and a little bit of a performance issue. Starting with the performance, I could completely let this one go. Yes, there was a bit of frame rate hitching, but it never once occurred during combat or during the stealth sequences. So the actual gameplay itself is 100% safe. However, it was pretty frequent whenever I moved into a larger open area, or I just moved from one section to another, where you have the game like is divided by these security doors. The frame rate would hitch a little bit there. So it was slightly immersion breaking. It's very lucky that it happens at moments like, where nothing's going on. So it doesn't ruin the experience for me. It's just like, I'm just going to go through this doorway for a few seconds. They are aware of that. They're working on that, but it's crunch time. The game's very close to release. And there were also a couple other bugs. Like some people got stuck in a wall here or there and they had to reload a checkpoint. Now that actually did occur to me. You're supposed to bash through this one wall, and I kind of just got stuck bashing. And when I reloaded the checkpoint, I was on the other side of the wall. So I didn't lose anything. I didn't have to, go back and retrack, but it was, weird. And they knew that was the spot that people were getting stuck in. So they know what they have to resolve. My fear is it's just too close to release to resolve, all of the bugs that may be throughout the game. We also didn't see performance during the boss fights or during the cutscenes. That's another concern. But for the overall package, I'm 100% willing to forgive all of these issues. Now, I'm hoping they will iron out the vast majority, but with release being roughly 6 weeks away, I just don't think it's possible. I think we're going to get a game with a handful of bugs, nothing that ruins the experience, but I just can't see it being 100% polished when it releases in October. And that was today's video. I'm pretty sure I answered all of the questions you may have, but if I missed something, please let me know down in the comments. I will do my best to get back to you. I'm pretty sure we went over most of this stuff, and as I feel right now, unless something really goes sideways with this game, there's some major bugs, deeper into the game or something, I'm pretty sure we have a top tier VR title, like, top 10. That's how positive I am about this game. I know after 40 minutes, it's a little early to make that judgment, but what I saw really impressed me, and then just like, any concern I had was addressed by their Q&A. But what else are they going to say? Of course they're going to say good stuff in their own Q&A. Now on that topic, if you do want that full Q&A, like I said earlier, let me know down in the comments. Say, yeah, please post the hour-long Q&A or whatever. If enough people, drop that comment, then I'll do it. I'll put up the whole 1 hour Q&A for you guys. Okay, if you enjoyed this video, thumbs up. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. And as always, I'll see you guys on next time. And I'm Batman.